I don't know about you, but I am horribly traumatized by the news headline the past few weeks. And it once again reminded me why I stopped consuming news ever so often. I started to only read the news headlines once in a while because I come to realize that most of the news medias today, they are fear porn. They are headlines driven. They are simply just trying to capture your attention to their benefits. They are not actually trying to improve anything. The purpose of the news medias today were only trying to get your attention as long as possible so they can get the revenues of their advertiser. That's it. And most of the time, once we get into the circle of wanting to find out why one horrible incident could happen, we get into a bad cycle of staying there without noticing. Like for me personally, I get very narrow focused. So whenever something captures my attention on a news headline, I will stay there and find out every single details that I'm curious about. And oftentimes it's consuming a lot of my time, and in the end, I always come to find out that I wasted a lot of time that I shouldn't be wasting on. And the cruel reality is after the news cycle, what happened usually they don't get improved. Because the news headlines, eventually just news headlines, there are incidents that happens in the world every single day. And by reporting, it does raise awareness. But in the realistic way, if you really care about the subject, you should really invest your time trying to improve the situation that you don't want to see anymore. Otherwise, there's nothing you can do really but to have a discussion with your inner circle to raise awareness, just like the news media. And after that, there's not much that you can do. If consuming the news headlines can only bring you negativity and disappointment, then maybe it's time for us to adjust our habits and routines get to know what happened in the world, but not to get dragged into it. It is a good thing to want to know what happened in the world every single day, but on the other hand, the best way to be a useful component in this world is to get our everyday life to the best of our abilities so that we can be capable in the reality of the world to make contribution to actually help when we have more leverage and more time. So for me personally, I'm going to start limited my time on catching up with the news cycle. I would rather put my intention after work on the subject and the things that I wanted to learn rather than fall into the endless scrolling, find out about the things that I can do, nothing to help or improve. And come to talk about the news cycles, it reminds me of the horrible incidents that happened in Los Angeles, California, just a couple weeks ago. It was like 24 hours a day of a news cycle every single day, talking about how horrible it was for all the residents that live there. But, you see what happened today. 1 month later, no more news about the horrible incidents and the progressions of the rebuilding and what's happening with the community rebuilds. There's no more news on it anymore. Because in the end, life continues to move forward, and there is so much that other people can do for us. We all have to be capable and depending on ourselves. that's the way the world goes around. So we need to focus on our own lives in order to be able to give back. Life in the end is a game of endless self-improvement and to get better with your ability to survive. If you want to really be a good contributor in the world, first thing you have to do is to fix your own life first. We need to be so much more intentional about how much time we spend online to consuming the things that we cannot do much about. But we should really be much better off if we put in the time and effort to improve ourselves first. Then in the future, there will be more possibility for us to do more for the things that we actually care and concerned about and think that we can contribute on. So I personally think that watch the wrong YouTube videos ruin your life is definitely not an understatement. Because what we consume eventually will be transforming into what we think about, and it will be affecting our energy with facing everyday life. If what we consume online, let's say, it has become all about political atmosphere, political news, where two parties are attacking each other and trying to sabotage each other, there's nothing good comes out of that. The political atmosphere, they're mostly just building up of talking points to attack each other, to sabotage each other in order to establish integrity and how just for their party could be good for the majority of the people. But in reality, we as a part of the country, when we join the conversation, when we consuming those content online, in reality, oftentimes we cannot actually contribute anything by just consuming those contents. Yes, we watch that and get an understanding of what's happening in the country and what needs to be adjusted. And those were the jobs that the actual government employees and leaders' job to do. For us, by participating, yes, we can feel a sense of honor and integrity by participating in the movement of the conversation. But I don't think we can actually do anything to benefit the country, no matter how much time and effort we put in. Only if you are capable of having your own voice to be a reckoning voice and thought leader in that atmosphere, then in that way, I think the political contents are not going to ruin your life because you're wasting your time. But if in reality, it can only ruin your spirit of having a hopeful future for your country and for your circumstances, then I think you should stop consuming the content of political commentators. Because in the end, real talk should inspire real change for real new actions. Otherwise, it's just a bunch of talk on the internet. That is not going to do you any good. That is not going to do your country any good. I said that because I have been investing my time into consuming those content. And in the end, there is just a void, a big emptiness inside of me, knowing that there's not much that I can do. And just by studying online the past few months, trying to looking for the directions that I want to, how to use internet as my tool to get new knowledge and to get real skills to actually improve my life, I realized that anything that I don't like in this world is not going to change by me consuming the content that I am upset and wanted to make change about. The only way that I can actually contribute is by creating new actions in my day-to-day life, like what I've been doing daily the past few months. I'm trying to share my life experience because when I was younger, I always said to myself, one day I should try to share this knowledge because the process is so painful and sometimes it's just so hopeless to know there's no actual help. There's no actual knowledge to provide for you as when you enter the workforce. Those hardships and struggles that you went through, you don't get to learn from school or a lot of time from your friends. Sometimes they can only listen, but they don't know how to actually help you with your problems because maybe they're in different lines of work. Maybe they're having troubles with their own process as well. So that's the one thing I thought of that I can do and I enjoy doing, for me to actually doing something to contribute and to also improve, because my biggest interest is the wisdom and philosophy about how to live a happy, creative, joyful life. So that's what I choose to do. And ever since then, I become very intentional with the content that I consume with my free time, because I know that's the only time I have left besides my self-employed job that I can afford to level up. So I became so intentional with what I consume. The past few months, I've been studying on transform my curiosity and skills and talents into something that could be helpful and that could bring me a possible online career that I can pursue, whether it's later on what I want to continue to do with my music or the content I want to keep writing and sharing about on life. Those were the things that I put my focus on. So this week's conversation, I was setting the title to be what you consume, you become. Therefore, we need to be careful of what we're consuming on life with our free time, because eventually what we do day to day basically will become the formula of what we become in our future. So we really need to be intentional with our time of what we consume online, because social media can really be a powerful tool if we use them to learn new skills, to learn new knowledge of the career path that what we want to get into. But it's very easy to get into the trap of just scrolling mindlessly, and you just cannot leave the screen for some reasons. I think that's true for majority of the people on this planet of Earth. So I think it is so important for us to understand that spending your time consuming the wrong content online could literally ruin your life without noticing, because time is all we have in this world to create every single possibilities that we can achieve in our life. So where we spend our time will be the one of the most important thing that we need to get a hold of. So no matter what your interest and curiosity lands, I think it would be the best thing for you to be super intentional with what you consume from now on, because those could be the time that you invested to become better, or those could become the time that you just wasted for no good reasons. And I think the conscious good decisions will always be to be intentional of what you consume online. Because when you can use your consuming time to become better at something, why don't you do it? It is true that as human beings, we all need relaxations. There are times to be relaxed, and there are times to be really serious about your life. So in order to protect our energy, our mind, and our peace, from now on, we should all be intentional of how we're spending our time online to consume. We should all put our focus on how to improve our life, use social media as a tool to help us instead of just mindless scrolling and just wasting our time away.